Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So it's been a long time since I've last done a video, and here I want to present a new series of videos that I'll be doing in the few months, like for a year actually. So 2 months ago in October I've done Inktober on this little sketchbook here, and I've used, where does it start here? And I've used some prompts from the Sarah Burns Discord chat, and basically there was a theme per week. So the first week here was rocks, then it was trees, and more trees, and then it was animals, and more animals, and then flowers, and finally mountain here for the last few ones. So this is an Etchr sketchbook, square format, hot pressed, 6-inch. It's 52 pages, and I thought it would be really nice to do this 52-week challenge. So I decided to use this to do gouache pieces, and the idea is to kind of document different places where I've been. So I've started already. This was in 2002 in New York, 2003 in Madagascar, and 2013 in Dublin. And yeah, I'm really proud of this one. There are so many little details, and I've spent so much time building on the texture and all of this here, and I really like how it turned out. Let me know in the comments if you agree. I'm thinking of turning most of them into prints afterwards, or stickers or something like that. Anyway, and today I was thinking I can do another one here and just bring you on this journey. Hi, voiceover me there. So before going into today's painting process, I thought it would be nice to show you a little bit of what happened for the other ones. So here I'm just sketching out the New York City Manhattan Bridge. And for all of these gouache paintings, I've actually started with a sketch and then did kind of a wash before I went in to add some more details. And it's a lot of back and forth between adding some shadows, then adding some highlights, then going back to bring back the structure that can sometimes get lost a little bit with the different layers of colors, and then add some finer details. And it's sort of a lot of push and pulls and going back. And I'm not very used to doing some architecture. I do a lot more landscapes. So that was definitely a stretch for me to do that. So here, for instance, I'm showing you how I carefully tried to create the color of the bridge, and just went with this tiny flat brush to add the first layer. And I've actually recorded more of the process, but my head was in the way like all the time, so you'll only see tiny bits and pieces. And this is real time, so you can see I'm really careful to stay within the lines and not to mess up the sketch, because the bridge was pretty, like the structure was not so easy, and I really wanted to render the structure. And here I'm adding even more details with, I switched with a round brush, because I think for tiny details the round brush is really nice. And I've been using all the Sarah Burns brushes for all of this. I start with the large flat brush, then I usually use some flat brushes for the first, to fill in the different shapes, and then I add the details with the round brush. And now moving on to the second one. So this was a landscape here, and it's in Madagascar, and those are rice fields. And same, I started with wetting the paper and then adding some first very wet layers of gouache that I really let float into one another, just to have the main elements, the main colors, and yeah, to give me a base for working. And I like to do my skies wet into wet, because you can do some really nice soft clouds this way. So this is a technique I really enjoyed. So yeah, blocking out all the colors and trying to get a variety of colors, also not doing only one flat wash of color, but already trying to add some variety in the wet first wash. Here I zoomed in for same. I've used the same flat small brush to add some tiny details in the background because there were some kind of trees, and it was important to give a sense of scale. I think I messed up a little bit with the composition on this one. I stayed a little bit too flat. And even for the background, so I don't want to over render the background, but I also try to add a variety of colors and to add different types of browns for the trees and, you know, give them a little bit of interest and give them a little bit of structure with different colors. And you can see in the foreground that I've started to build up the texture of the rice, and that was such a struggle, and you will see it in the next clip that I struggled a lot to find how to do this. So I've used a lot of different brushes, lots of different colors. Yeah, here I'm trying to build the texture and to add some also on the watery parts to really show that those are rice fields in the water, and that was just the hardest part. And I think I went too geometrical here, so it made it even harder to really render it the way I wanted. And I've really used lots of different brushes. So as you can see, I've tried to add some more water by bringing back some of the blue, but the issue with gouache is that the underneath layer is never dry, like it's never sealed. So when you put some more color on top, it will get a bit muddy. And this is an issue I've encountered here. And also I didn't want all of my rice to look the same because it was already very geometrical with the composition I've chosen. So I wanted to have a variety of the rice and to make it feel like rice. So I used like this flat brush trying to separate the bristle and use them to create some grass field texture. I used also a very thin rigger brush to do some more alone strands that stood out a bit more. But yeah, it was definitely hard. I think colors wise, it was looking pretty good. It reminded me of Madagascar and of the picture because all of those, I think I said it in the beginning, but all of those are based on places I've been and pictures I've taken or my family had taken on those places. So it's basically one photograph. So it's 52 photographs and I replicate one every week on this little thing. So yeah, now back to the video. So the thing I've been using for all of this is my Stay Wet gouache palette. You can see it here. It's the one I've made for Croatia when I went for the art retreat. And it's still quite full, so I'm still using this for all of my gouache. So here I've started again with I'm replicating an Italy scene. I will add the photos for each of those in the corner or something so that you can see what are my references. And this is again an urban scene, and this is something I'm very not used to. I've tried a little bit in plein air, but this is not usually the kind of topics this is not usually the kind of topic I paint. So it was a bit hard, and also because the light was very different. I wanted really to convey this Italian feeling, so I went with a different color palette than I usually use, with more yellows. And I started with this very watery wash, and I added some more cool in the foreground because there were some buildings in the foreground that were very different in styles compared to the one in the background. And then the one of the background, I leaned more toward this yellowish colors that I was talking about. So here I'm just leaving everything blend into one another. And to be honest, at this stage, I was not sure if this was a good idea. I was I was a bit confused on what I was doing, to be honest. And I also came in with some more greenish tones because some of the buildings were a little bit like old looking with some, it was a very like kind of old style Italy scene with lots of yellows and greens and like almost mossy greens. So I tried to put those, and some of the details of the scene were really green, and I thought maybe I can already show like the windows and all of that in this green, but it just ended up going everywhere and bleeding into one another, which was kind of what I wanted, but it was also much more dramatic than I thought it would be. Because usually gouache kind of sits, but because I'm working upright, it bleeds way more than what I'm used to when working with gouache. So yeah, this first layer, I was a bit confused. So then I started working on the buildings in the foreground, which for now looked really messy, as you can see. And on those, it was more like a stone structure with lots and lots of textures and a little bit of shadows, and there was a lot happening here. So again, I went it with this smaller brush, and as you can see, I'm very indecisive on how to start. My sketch was quite precise. Like usually for landscapes, I just put the big shapes, but because it's architecture, I needed some more details on where were the windows and all of that. And actually, I forgot one window, and I was like so confused on how to add this window back afterwards. So yeah, I try when I do architecture to be very accurate on my sketch to help me then with the painting. And because it was this stone texture, I really tried to render the stone texture, and that was super hard because I didn't want it to be all patchy either, but if I blended too much, it became very smooth and you couldn't feel the stone texture anymore. So it was a lot of back and forth and trying to understand how to render. I'm sorry, when you see my hand going over, it's because my computer, where I have my reference photograph, is getting into sleep mode, so I need to like shake it a little bit so that I can still see my photograph. Nowadays, what I'm doing is printing them, and it's so much easier to use the printed version, and also I can like on my sketchbook I can usually tape them next to the painting, so it's really nice. I'm rambling around a bit, so I'm describing the process and also just discussing bits and blobs, so I hope I'm not boring you to death. On the color also, this was such a struggle because there was more of a shadowy part and more of a light part, but on a very dark stone. So I was really not sure how to go about with the colors, if I should go more on the bluish or add some more some lighter blues. Like it was really a struggle to understand what colors will create what effects. And I didn't want the whole house to be just one type of color, but every time I layered, it kind of made the layer underneath disappeared a little bit. So yeah, as you can see, it was a lot of small touches and being very careful and trying to keep some of the light, trying to make the distinction between the different parts of the house visible also. And I was going quite thick with my gouache. It was already quite dark, but I needed like the doors and the windows to be even darker, which again was a challenge to create this difference. It was very, there was a lot of texture and a lot of things happening, but at the same time it was all very subtle, and when I tried to do them, I felt like it was either way too much or it was too blended and you couldn't feel the different textures anymore. So again, it was a lot of push and pull, but it's super interesting because it makes me use gouache in different ways than what I usually do for landscapes. So I think this challenge is really good for making me tackle some landscapes or some cityscapes that I normally won't do, or that I would be very afraid of. again, the roof, another challenge again, because there were some tiles, there were some really light ones, some really dark ones. I wanted to have this kind of dry brush texture, but the layer underneath was too transparent compared to the one I was putting on top. So I really needed to bring back this layer underneath, but with a more opaque texture. So this also is something I struggle about when I'm doing gouache, because I start with quite transparent layers, and then when I build on that, I don't know if I should cover the whole thing or leave some of the more transparent part, because like this house, for instance, it's a lot of thicker gouache, and I think it looks nice, but at the same time it looks very heavy compared to the very fluid and transparent background. But the mix is really hard to balance, I feel. Here we're doing some more dry brush in another direction to add a little bit more of this variety and of this stone texture. And this is something that worked really well. So I did a lot of different layers with slightly different colors of this dry brush, and it really helped me to achieve what I wanted. So here I'm using, again, this whole back and forth between transparent and thicker layers. I was starting to work a little bit thicker here, but I didn't want to be as thick as the foreground. So I was working with a little bit more transparent layers to add the shadows. And here the light is not good because I'm blocking a little bit the light, but I'm adding this kind of, I don't know how you call that. It's not really a terrace, but it's a balcony. And I'm adding the safe thing for the balcony, and it was actually, I think, more dark, but I wanted to add it in more of a lavender pale color because I think it blended better into this background that was more into transparent and not too strong colors, and also because there was already a lot of dark from the foreground, so I wanted to balance that and not having again another dark thing here. I had a lot of fun with the windows here because I wanted to have this light, and I added different shades of blues and whites inside the windows to give them a little bit more life than just normal windows. But all these details makes it so hard, like, because you have the windows, you have the blinds, you have the frame around the windows, you have the shadow of the balcony above, you have like the support of the balcony, you have the security of the balcony. So you have a lot of different elements to put in there. So yeah, unfortunately I did not record the final result of the last one, so I will put a picture in the end. But yeah, this is just some satisfying taping off of these three little, of the two first, and I will add the picture of the last one at the end. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I will probably make some more on this challenge as it goes, because I basically do one painting a week, and I also post some shorts here on YouTube and also some reels on Instagram of all of those different little square paintings that I'm doing. So if you're interested to follow the journey, I will put all the links in the description so that you can follow those. It's really fun, and I really can't wait to see the final results and just, flip through the pages of the sketchbook and see some parts of my different travels unravel before my eyes. So yeah, I hope you enjoy and it keeps you inspired to paint. If some of you want to take some sort of challenge also and want to jump on the journey with me, just let me know in the comments, and maybe we can do a hashtag or something and share all of our pieces together and kind of stay accountable this way. Also, before I forget, if you're interested, I have a few news. So first, I've released last month my first Skillshare class where I just show my process to create stylized landscapes in gouache based on photographs and reference photographs. and I really break down the process into very actionable steps. So if you're interested, I will put the link in the description. Second thing, I now have a Squarespace website. If you want to get a look at it, I will also put the link in the description. There you can see some of my more finished pieces that I've never shared here on YouTube. So go and check this out if you're interested. And finally, I plan on filming one more video before the end of year, but I'm not sure I will be able to edit it before next year. So in case I'm too late, I wish you a really wonderful holiday season, and I hope to see you next year with more creative projects. In the meantime, enjoy this end of year, have a really great start in 2025, and I'll see you next year. Bye!